abuse comes in many different forms. Abuse isn't just hitting someone upside the head. Abuse isn't just bruises, and cuts. Abuse can be 1,000 different things.
What's good? I'm Nikisha Elise Williams, and this is Black and Published on the Mahogany Books Podcast Network, bringing you the journeys of writers, poets, playwrights, and storytellers of all kinds. Today's guest is Myah Ariel, author of the novel No Ordinary Love. It's a story inspired by the song The Roof by Mariah Carey.
I'm obsessed with music. I've just was raised listening to my mom's music. My grandparents had a record player in the house, always played vinyl. And so I said, I want to write about a R&B pop singer who is trying to deal with the struggles of being a Black woman artist in this industry.
Myah, a journalist, film enthusiast, and lover of all things pop culture, said she decided to try her hand at writing after spending the pandemic reconnecting with her love of reading romance novels. How she managed to write, sell, and publish 2 books in the 4 years from when she first approached the page. Plus, what intimidated Myah most about novels after spending years reading screenplays and art criticism. And why she keeps coming back to the toxicity of the entertainment industry as a setting for her stories about love, hope, and reclaiming your name and life in the midst of fame. That and more is next when Black and Published continues. Myah, when did you know that you were a writer?
So I've always loved writing. I didn't discover that I had a knack for actual creative writing or fiction until probably when I started trying for the first time, which was 2021. So I have a graduate degree in journalism, specifically journalism covering the arts and culture, so writing criticism. My undergraduate degree is in film studies. And so I always loved writing about films, like writing scholarship, historic writing about film history. And so I've always enjoyed the craft of writing, but it was so daunting and scary to me to write dialogue, create characters, create narratives, plots, twists, things like that, because I've admired it for so long in the books that I read and the movies that I've watched. So it wasn't until the pandemic when I was really reading specifically a lot of romance that I thought, I think I have a story to tell. I've read so many of these books. I want to sit down and see if I could try my hand at writing it.
What was it about creating plot structures, characters, themes, dialogue that intimidated you?
So really dialogue intimidates me because I think the fact that I have studied film from an academic standpoint and also studied the craft of criticism, which I truly believe criticism is a craft, and have such an appreciation for the art of creating, the art of writing characters. I understand what good dialogue is. And so I just never thought that I myself could actually create the sort of caliber of work that I appreciated. And that maybe if I tried to write dialogue, it would sound clunky. It wouldn't sound natural. It wouldn't sound free flowing. And that always felt like the most difficult thing about fiction to me was the dialogue. And so that is what was scary to me. And also particularly for screenplays. So I worked in the film industries for a long time. Before I was working professionally in the film industry, I was interning a lot. And a big part of those internships was reading scripts. And so having spent so many years kind of having to evaluate other people's work, it sort of intimidated me to want to try it for myself. So I think that is part of why I was sort of hesitant to give it a try. And my first draft of my first book, When I Think of You, is very, very different than my final draft. It took a lot of engaging beta readers, friends who are writers, to read and tell me, you're using a lot of extra language here. We don't need all of this. You're using a lot of metaphor. We don't need all of this. The voice of this character is too similar to the voice of that character.
And so what did that study look like for you in studying the craft of writing so that you could really nail what it is that readers might want or be accustomed to?
A lot of it looked like reading the books that I enjoyed, not just from a reader perspective, but turning a critical eye to it. I'm sitting down to draft. I'm having a hard time getting this conversation down on the paper. Like in my head, I know what I want these characters to say to each other, but in the writing of the dialogue, it's coming out really clunky. So I might just go to my bookshelf, grab a book that I love, and just flip through, maybe halfway through, find a conversation, and just it's something as simple as like dialogue tags, where in the middle of a sentence, the author might say, she stopped and brushed the hair out of her eye, just to make it feel natural, or he paused and his lip quivered. Just what is the sort of practical way that you put physical action in the midst of a sentence and it flows for the reader? And so having to sort of like read it and see it as I'm doing it, that helped as well. Also, reading craft books. One of the books that I delved into to learn about story beats was Save the Cat Writes a Novel. And there are a lot of authors who create YouTube channels to talk about the craft of writing. And so that helped me. I feel like as I started drafting, I had sort of like a natural understanding of the flow of story just because I had been to film school and I had read so many scripts and I had studied it for so long. But in but when you actually sit down and you understand about 10% into the novel, this should be happening. At 25%, this should be happening. This is your midpoint. This should be happening here. Understanding what it means to have like a false defeat or a false victory. This is how you close a novel. Those sorts of things helped put a framework around what I was doing and make it feel like I kind of had more of an understanding of it.
You mentioned the framework that you learned in your own self-study, but then in writing in the romance genre, that is a genre that already has its own frameworks. Tropes, yes, but really like a structure of how a story should unfold. Like it's the meet cute, the build
Yeah.
up and the anticipation, the miscommunication, like all of these different turning points that keep the plot going. Yes, but then also provide familiarity and maybe even comfort to a reader
Mhm.
who does turn to those kinds of books for escapism. Did that structure and writing in that genre specifically help you as you were crafting your debut novel, which became When I Think of You?
Absolutely. I mean, romance is the genre that I've read most broadly. And so I feel like a lot of that was sort of already baked into me just by virtue of the amount of romance that I have read across well over a decade. There was a time in my 20s where I was probably reading 2 to 3 romance novels a week. And so everything you just mentioned, like the meet cute, the tension, the miscommunication, the will they, won't they, the push and the pull, the angst, that is what draws me to love stories to begin with. And so when I think about what compels me to write romance, it's the fact that no matter what movie I'm watching, what book I'm reading, even if it's not a romance, it's always the love story that draws me in, whether we're talking about A Different World, which is now on Netflix, or we're talking about like Love Jones or Love and Basketball, which is a movie that really inspired my debut novel, When I Think of You, or Brown Sugar. Those are just the things that really speak to me. So those felt like the most natural sort of elements to infuse in the novel. And it was kind of the more practical pieces of like how to get these characters to where they need to be that I kind of had to sort of retrofit.
So you're inspired by Black romantic films
Yes.
and your titles come from songs.
Yes.
We're going to get there.
Yes.
So then after you got your draft of When I Think of You, what was your publication process like? Because
Yeah.
this is all in the last couple of years. It was only 2025.
Yeah. So I started drafting in summer of 2021. So I think it was June 2021. I finished the draft. Literally, I finished the draft December, like December 30th or 31st. So it was about a 6 month process of me doing that very first draft. And I sent my first query. So that's when you're pitching to literary agents because I knew I wanted to do traditional publishing. I did not have any know-how of how to indie publish. I just was not interested in being the one woman shop to get this book out there. I wanted to write the book and partner with a publisher to have them do everything else. And I wanted an agent to help guide me through that process. So I finished the book by the end of December and I sent my first query or pitch out to agents on January 1st. I do not recommend this because I learned quickly that while my query letter sold the book really well, my manuscript needed work. Because again, this is the first book I've ever written. Um, and so I got several agents requesting the full manuscript within that first month of sending it out. I think I got like something like 8 or 9 requests from agents, which is pretty fast. So that means your pitch letter is working, right? But then you send in the full manuscript, and sometimes they'll take a week to read it, sometimes they'll take months to read it. And I started to slowly get rejections. The agent who is my agent, it was March. So I queried her January 1st or 2nd. She requested the full, I think, within a week, and she got through the manuscript. It took her, I think, till March to get through the manuscript. She wrote me back and it was a rejection, but she gave me very specific feedback about why she was rejecting it. And she said she really enjoyed my writing. She loved the main character. The first version of the book was a dual timeline, 50-50 college and the present. And she said she felt like the pacing was off, that we spent too much time in the past and that the real story for them was in the present. And she also felt like my male character, Danny, was not empathetic. And she wrote in the message that she had a hard time rooting for the happily ever after. And so at the time that I applied, I had completely butchered this manuscript. I had taken out all of the college chapters. And so there was like a gap. It was like chapter 1, chapter 3, chapter 5, there was like red lines through it. I just thought, I'm going to throw spaghetti at the wall, send in this butchered manuscript, give them the pitch and let them know that I need help. And I thought, surely nobody is going to want to take on this project. I was wrong. I was selected. And the author who picked me was Sammy Ellis, who writes horror. She writes YA horror. But Sammy was a godsend because she loves romance. She spoke my language. She read the manuscript. She wrote me a 9-page edit letter. She made a scene list, which is basically like a shot list for a film, where she broke down in a spreadsheet, she broke down every scene of what was happening in the book. And she spoke to me like in the edit letter, she literally said, we need a moment like that scene in Deliver Us from Eva when LL Cool J and Gabrielle Union are in the truck and she doesn't want to be on this date with him because he just picked her up in this like work van. But Shaka Khan comes on the radio and he starts singing and she starts singing and now they're both singing and the tension is broken and now all of a sudden there's vibes. She was like, you need that moment. And she wasn't telling me exactly what to write, but she was telling me what was needed, what was missing. So with her notes, I was able to completely redo the book. And I requeried that same agent, Kim Lionetti, who is my agent. And by that time, I had had another offer from another agent, but I wanted to send it back to Kim because she's the one who gave me the feedback. She read it within a week and offered again and said she was blown away by the revisions. She wanted to represent it. And so by Labor Day, I had signed with her as my agent. And then by the end of October, we had sold the book at auction to Berkeley. And then by early 2023, I was working with my editor at Berkeley, Essie Soga, who's fabulous. And we worked on revising the book some more. And then it came out in April of 2024.
So you've had like a whirlwind last few years. And now we're here to talk about your second book, No Ordinary Love. When you got your deal with Berkeley in October, November of 2022, was it a 2-book deal so that you already know that you were going to have to write another book and be on the hook for something else?
Yes, it was a 2-book deal. And so in that process of going on sub, I had sent a couple of blurbs of other book ideas. And so based on those other nebulous ideas, Berkeley offered a 2-book deal. And so it was automatic that after When I Think of You, basically I had to start drafting, working on the second book before When I Think of You even came out. But the book that I started working on is not No Ordinary Love. This came out of nowhere because I basically was like, Essie, I changed my mind. I have a whole different story I want to write. And she went with me. We had to get approval from Berkeley to switch gears and write a whole different book.
Book 2 was book 3. We'll get there later. I want to know about No Ordinary Love. Where did it come from? And how did the approval process go?
so you typically, to get your second book approved, you have to write like what's called a proposal, which is like a full summary, which is basically start to finish what happens, and like several chapters. And so I had written that for my original book too, sent it in, and then I just had this feeling like this isn't the book that I want to write right now. And then so I'm a big Mariah Carey fan. I am. I have her records literally.
I see Butterfly behind you.
Yeah, Butterflies back there. I've got some Stevie Wonder, some Billie Holiday. So Mariah is my girl. And I don't know if I had started reading her memoir. I don't know what it was. I'm always listening to Mariah Carey. For me, tied with Emancipation of Mimi, whole other conversation. But she had a master class that came out with Brandy where they were re-recording The Roof. And I was listening to those lyrics and I just got and watching the music video, and I was getting these visuals of this kissing in the rain on the roof. And I was like, this is what I need to write. Like how these characters, I don't know exactly what their backstory is yet, but this is what I want to write. And it wouldn't leave me. So I remember, I don't know if I like emailed my agent and was like, I need to talk to Essie about changing this book. And so me and Essie got on Zoom for like 45 minutes and we just kind of like fangirled over this whole idea about Mariah Carey. And I was like, I'm obsessed with music. I've just was raised listening to my mom's music. My grandparents had a record player in the house, always played vinyl. And there's a lot of music in my debut novel as well, even though it's not about music. And so I said, I want to write about a R&B pop singer who is trying to deal with the struggles of being a Black woman artist in this industry.
I, like you, was raised to love music. I grew up in a house with lots of vinyls and record players.
Right.
I will go on record. I think most people know this about me, but if they don't, like my favorite artist is Janet Jackson, period. So like when I saw your first novel, I haven't read it yet, but when I think of you, of course, that's the first song that comes to my head. It's like, oh, it's a Janet song. And then I see the next novel is No Ordinary Love. And I'm like, oh, it's a Sade song.
Yes.
Can you walk me through the song titles as novel titles, please?
Yes. So the original title for my first book was not When I Think of You. I guess I can say this. My working title for it was Cinema of Attraction, which is a film term. And I thought it was like clever and cool. And my agent was like, that sounds like a Lifetime movie. So she was like, before we go on sub, we need to pick a new title. And I was like really stressed, and literally just listening to The Roof inspired a whole book for me. And so listening to music can inspire scenes, can inspire the title that we actually put this book on submission with was Make It Last, which is from Make It Last Forever. Not the Keith Sweat version, but like the Mariah Carey and Joe version, which is a really great cover of that song. But it wasn't sticking. Just like the book that I put on the shelf, I was like, that title wasn't sticking. And so after we'd sold it to Berkeley, I just randomly said to Essie, I think we need to change the title. And she was like, well, where do you get your title inspiration from? And I said, music. And the first title that I wanted was That's the Way Love Goes. Yes. So it was between Janet and Luther. Those are my two. And so we literally had a list of like Luther.
What was the Luther song?
I don't know. I'm blanking. I'm totally blanking. But my number one choice was That's the Way Love Goes. And so we had like three choices. And there was an Aretha Franklin song, which was Since You've Been Gone, which I didn't like because I think that was going to remind people of Kelly Clarkson. So we sent three options up the chain. And because sales and marketing and they all get to pick, again, traditional publishing. So it was number one was That's the Way Love Goes. And I think it was going to be The Way Love Goes because they took the that's off. So it was going to be The Way Love Goes. Number two was When I Think of You. And number three was Since You've Been Gone.
For the first book, okay.
For the first book. And since they came back, Essie came back and was like, they picked When I Think of You. I cried because it wasn't The Way Love Goes. But I will say, When I Think of You ended up being so perfect for this book because it didn't end up being dual timeline in the sense that we're switching back and forth between chapters, but the way that we worked in her memories of their first time around in college, there are just moments where she reflects back and thinks back on when they first met, when they first kissed, when they first did more than kiss, when they broke up. And it's like memories throughout the present. And so that when I think of you, it just fit and it ended up being a perfect. And for me, I always love the part of the song where it's so in love. And like by the end of the book, I feel like that would be the end credit song. That if it were a movie, that would be what would playing at the end credits.
So yes, we have a novel inspired by Mariah Carey and her brief affair with Derek Jeter. We have the title of a Sade song as a title of the novel. All there is to do now is to get into this book. So can you read something from No Ordinary Love so that we can go deep? No Ordinary Love by Myah Ariel tells the story of pop superstar Ella Simone and baseball phenom Miles Westbrook. The two meet when Ella's marriage to music mogul Elliot Majors is falling apart, and she wants nothing more than to shed her carefully curated persona and life for something more than just real, but extraordinary. Here's Myah.
Okay. All right. So this is going to be this is their meet cute. So it starts with a Mariah Carey quote. Some of us need to be rescued, but everyone wants to be seen. This is page 36 if you're reading along. Miles Westbrook's presence looms large backstage. Even with the frenzied sea of people separating us, I am keenly aware of him standing in a dark corner chatting closely with a member of his team. I can't remember ever feeling this affected by a complete stranger before, wary yet intrigued at the same time. Before tonight, I had seen the man before, in photographs and on TV. Briefly, I revisit Cheryl's ridiculous contributions to the group chat, along with Jamie and Rodney's relentless teasing. It's one thing to make jokes with your friends about getting back in the swing of things, but nothing could quite prepare me for the chemical reactions Miles would draw out of me with just a glance. And considering the fact that almost half of us are tiptoeing around while propped up on what might as well be called stilts, that's saying a lot. The person has a bright white smile that stretches broadly over a strong chin, is framed by achingly full lips, and bracketed by dimples that curve within the deep, rich brown complexion of his otherwise angular face. Miss Simone, if you come with me now, I'll introduce you to Mr. Westbrook, a show producer says with a polite smile that knocks me out of my trance. I smile back and follow her on stiff legs. Something elemental happens in the room as the distance closes between me and Miles. Like somehow, just by walking 30 feet, I have traversed a continent and entered a new climate. At about the halfway mark, Miles seems to take note of my approach, and when our eyes lock, for the second time tonight, I can only hold the contact for a moment before I glance away to break the tension. In the final seconds before reaching him, I give myself the pep talk of the century. It consists of several get-it-togethers, a few girl he is just a man's, and a final resounding Elodie Ashley Robinson, your grandmama taught you better than this. So by the time I'm squarely in front of him, I've mustered the poise and control to act like the well-adjusted adult I am, but only in the most uncertain terms. Hi, Miles. It's nice to meet you, I say, extending my hand with a perfectly professional smile. Ella. He says my name and tapers off, like he meant to follow it up with something, but never quite decided on what. But his eyes remain steady on mine, and there's an indecision there, like he's willing them to stay put rather than travel the length of me, like they really want to.
Thank you. So that opening scene.
Yeah.
I love it because, like it's the intensity of it, but like they're at the Grammys.
Yeah.
She's getting ready to present. There's this whole backstory with her ex-husband. He's not there, so allegedly. He's off somewhere with his mistress,
yes,
acting bad or whatever.
Being messy.
Being messy. She's got her glam squad. She's got on this like nice little outfit, but it's about that big and made of paper. Yeah. And there's a wardrobe malfunction, and Sis has to walk out to present the award with this fine man in his shirt.
Yes.
So I know you said the inspiration was Mariah and Tommy and Derek, but honestly, in that scene, all I could think of, and not in a negative way that we have now come to know it, but all I really could think of was Diddy and Cassie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which is why I say not in the negative way that we've come to think of it.
Right.
But like before we knew everything.
Right.
That has been alleged in the lawsuits.
Yeah.
Like that's the image that I saw, that her husband was that kind of figure.
Yes.
And she was the other kind, right?
Yeah.
And even though this is a romance novel in the music industry with everything that's happening and taking place in all of these like big relationships that we are seeing implode or be revealed or whatever the case may be, why did you want to take something that could be seen as so toxic and still make it like a loving place?
It almost comes with the territory of me living in Los Angeles, having worked either in or adjacent to the industry for so long that these these topics just are ingrained with sort of what my authorial voice and what I have to say about being a Black woman in and around entertainment is. And I think it's just because that is the reality in which we live, you know? And for me, it was important to show Ella as a woman who is subject to kind of the pitfalls and the dangers of the craft that she's chosen and the profession and the career that she's embarking on because of her passions and her talent. She's subject to this toxicity, but she also is able to find a way to break free from it, find her independence, and find a way to thrive. And her love with Miles is sort of a byproduct of that. And also, I think it's important too that even we as women who may have just like regular lives, that toxicity that we've seen in Diddy, allegedly from the, I think I have to say that.
Heavy on the allegedly. We don't want no
Heavy.
lawsuits over here, okay?
Exactly. I think that and I can say this from my own personal experience, that toxicity that we see from Diddy, we can experience that in our own lives, in our own relationships too, from just from the dynamics that we might experience, whether it's in your own marriages, whether it's in your own with your boyfriend, whether it's in your relationship. So I think there is a way for women to relate to what Ella goes through, what we've seen Cassie go through, whether you're in the entertainment industry or not. Being in a relationship that is toxic, discovering that the person that you fell for is not the person that you thought they were, discovering that you maybe don't even understand who you are and what your wants and what your needs are until you're subjected to something that is unequivocally not right for you. And then when you break free from that, having to find a way to figure out, who am I? What do I want? What do I need in life? And so those were kind of the themes I was hoping to explore in this book.
And she really does have to break free, but not only does she have to break free, she has to reclaim and redefine because she owns nothing. She doesn't
Yeah.
own like her name. She doesn't own her masters. She doesn't have access to her money. Like
Right.
everything is in someone else's name. And it was set up that way to keep her bound. And as you mentioned, like this is something that women can experience, whether they're famous and celebrities or not, whether they are perceived to be wealthy or not. So then, and having your heroine have to literally claw her way back to the top to get what she deserved, but what she should have had the first time. What message do you want to send to women who are having to rebuild their lives after such toxic relationships?
Yeah, I think that was what I was really trying to convey with her relationship with her attorney. And her attorney says to her, abuse comes in many different forms. Abuse isn't just hitting someone upside the head. Abuse isn't just bruises and cuts. Abuse can be 1,000 different things. And so I think we can get we can be like, oh, well, it's not that bad. He just doesn't want me to see my friends, or just doesn't want me to see my family, or just wants to have control over all of the finances, or he just, like in Ella's sense, he's looking out for me. He has his lawyer do everything, and he just wants me to sign this to protect me, even though I'm 19 or I think 20 she was at the time. And then it's the expectation that you won't fight back. But the fact that Ella was strong enough to say, not just kind of lay down and walk away peacefully, but to say, I'm going to fight for what I deserve now. I hope that kind of inspires people to at least look into what their rights are and what their resources are, find the strength to push back, not just accept what's laid out in front of them.
Not only did she fight for her own rights, she also fought for her new man. You said that this was inspired by Mariah Carey's The Roof. There is a nice little scene in the novel where Ella is singing on the roof. She's singing a Whitney Houston song. that not everybody should or can sing. And then
Right.
she remixes it and makes it real slow and real sexy, and dance is a euphemism for the other things that we do with bodies.
Yeah,
So, ma'am,
ma'am.
why bring Nippy into this? Okay.
Okay, so there is, again, I listen to music all the time. There is a cover of I Want to Dance with Somebody that Cynthia Erivo did at Lincoln Center, Jazz at Lincoln Center. And it is like the most stunning jazz arrangement of that song. And so I'd heard like a Sam Smith cover of a Whitney Houston song, How Will I Know If He Loves Me? Because, you know, she has these like poppy songs, but if you like put them on sort of like you slow them down and you listen to the lyrics, they're like heart wrenching and they're about yearning and they're so that's how I felt listening to the Cynthia Erivo jazz version of I Want to Dance with Somebody. It was about loneliness and longing. And I felt, and so again, this is how music can inspire an entire scene, an entire kind of movement or a beat in a book. And I felt like Ella has been emotionally deprived for such a long time. She's been in this loveless marriage. She's been made a fool of in public because everyone is talking about this unkept secret of her man just going out around on town with Miss Thing. And she's lonely. And so she has finally found this spark of passion and connection and chemistry with this man. And she kind of put some feelers out there. They were a little bit pushed back. And so this song for me was kind of like her kind of cry to him, like, I want to dance with somebody. I want to feel the heat with somebody. And it's like the lead up to, you know what
Yes.
happens next.
When they
So
meet the
yeah.
grown up. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Do you write with music? I'm just curious.
I don't play music while I'm writing because it's distracting, but I will take breaks and I will play music like while I am in between. Like or I'm writing and I'll be like, I need to go play Stop the World by Maxwell before I write this next scene. Like I'll
Ma'am,
yeah,
ma'am.
yes, yes. So it's like I know what the next scene is gonna call for me to like conjure up. So let me go listen to that before I go write this next scene. So yes,
No good is coming out of Stop the World. It's just not.
maybe some babies. Who knows?
Exactly. I love your candor. Thank you so much for playing with me.
Of course.
I'm sure your playlist looked like mine. My God. So then in the end, she gets her man, she gets her life back, and the world is really open for her. And we don't know what's going to happen next. It's a happily ever after, but it's one that is like very of the now. Is there a more long-term message that you are wanting to send in this story of
Right.
Ella and Miles beyond what we get at the very end?
I mean, there are a lot of messages. I think there's layers to it. I mean, so motherhood is also another theme that's woven throughout. We have the kind of like these opposite forces between with Ella's mother and Miles's mother. And there's just kind of this theme that I'm setting up of how we had one mother who is of an affluent background. Ella's mom is of this well-to-do kind of like boule society, but she has this sort of almost jealousy and envy towards her daughter, and that manifests as resentment and how she takes Elliot's side and why won't you just be good to that good man? It's like he cheated on me, mom. And he's like
He's a good man, Savannah.
exactly. He's a good man, Savannah. And it's like, but mom, he's not good to me. And it's like, girl, just give us some grandbabies. So you've got that kind of mom. And then you have Miles's mother, who was a teen mom and who has struggled with addiction and who has been in and out of his life, but at this season in her life has made a turnaround, has focused on her sobriety. That is where Miles's protectorship kind of comes into play. But at the end, she has to tell him, like, I'm the mom. Like, it's my job to sacrifice, not yours. I know that it hasn't been that way for a lot of our relationship, but I'm telling you, son, like, it is my responsibility to maintain my sobriety, not yours. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so the message with that is that we're all, and this is the message in my first book too, like we're all given tools in our life. Our parents can only do the best that they can with what they have. And so that message of motherhood was something that I definitely wanted to home in on in this book. I think ultimately the message that I wanted to leave with people is what the dedication of the book was, which is for the broken hearts in search of healing, you have a right to require only love. And my message in this book is that there are things that we call love that we're not. And so I think after you experience a deep heartbreak, like Ella, like Miles, you can go through like really hard things in life, and that maybe they existed and happened to teach you what is not for you and what is not love. And then you can go on and find something that is real. And maybe you wouldn't have even recognized it had you not gone through what you went through before. So I think that is sort of like the lasting message that I wanted to leave readers with.
So before I let you go for the afternoon, I want to do a speed round and a game
Okay.
with you.
Yay, I love games.
What is your favorite book?
Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan for lots of reasons.
I finished Can't Get Enough yesterday.
Oh
I
my
had,
gosh, I haven't read it yet.
I had the email out to get her on this podcast. So,
Oh, she is a gem. She's a gem.
yes. Okay. Who is your favorite author?
Kennedy Ryan. She's like the Beyonce of romance. So, I mean,
So, I know your favorite artist is Myah. What is your favorite song?
can I do a couple?
Top 5.
Top 5. Okay. Fly Like a Bird from Emancipation of Mimi. Always Be My Baby remix with Escape. Heartbreaker. That's 3. I need more from Emancipation of Mimi. It's like that. I want that song to play at my funeral. I've told my sister because she said, no stress. I'm making the most of life. I don't know. The lyrics, it's all about the lyrics, okay? Leaving it all behind. I don't know. I just feel like that would be the way that I would want my homegoing celebration to go out. And number 5, Breakdown with Crazy Bone. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What is your favorite film?
I might have to do a couple. I'm a big fan of Interstellar by Christopher Nolan. Carmen Jones with Dorothy Dandridge and Harry Belafonte is like my favorite classic film.
What do you think is the best book to film or TV adaptation?
Pride and Prejudice, the Joe Wright 2005, I think is universally loved. It's in terms of an adaptation, that is a beautiful adaptation. In that it has become its own thing apart from the book. I also was Spike Lee's Malcolm X an adaptation of the autobiography? I don't know, but I think that's a perfect film. So if it was, I would say that's also.
Whether or not it was an adaptation of the autobiography, actually, I don't know. I don't even think it matters because it's a biopic and the autobiography. We'll say
Yeah,
yes, sure.
we'll
Why
just
not?
say yes. For the purposes of this game, we'll say yes.
We'll say yes. It was a perfect film. 5 stars.
Should have won Best Picture.
And Best Actor. If money were no object, where would you go? What would you do? And where would you live?
I love Los Angeles. I would not leave Los Angeles. I would just buy a home in my current neighborhood of Los Angeles, which is West Adams. But in terms of trips where I would go, I've been to South America one time when I was in college. I did a trip and I've always wanted to go back and just take trains to like between the different countries. So I visited Peru. So I would want to like do Argentina, Brazil, and just it's beautiful. Like the train we were on, like it was all wind, like all glass. So you could see like the mountains. And also it's like, I just feel like the culture, it's like I could go to Europe, but like I just enjoy the culture down there so much and your dollar goes a lot further. So I would just love to do like a South American sort of like 2-week kind of excursion. So that would be fun.
I love that.
Really good food too.
I can imagine. Name 3 things on your bucket list.
See one of my books adapted on screen, get nominated for an NAACP Image Award for my writing. And let's see what else is on my bucket list. Well, get these Beyonce tickets today.
Yes, my friend was like number 36,000 in line. I don't even know where we were. What is your favorite sound?
Oh, my son's laugh. That's my favorite sound. He's got a good one.
What brings you joy?
I'll go back to my son. He brings me joy. Yeah, he's my favorite person in the world.
And what brings you peace?
Okay, it's all gonna be Henry. His name is Henry. It's all gonna be Henry, knowing that he is perfectly content.
Spoken like a proud mommy. All right, so our game is called Rewriting the Classics. Classic is however you define it.
Okay.
Name one book you wished you would have written.
Twilight, because I think it would be really cool to write like a teen vampire love story from like my perspective on with like infuse it with some like Black folks, give it a little bit of an R&B like slow jam Monica Usher twist on it. Like
Hey.
that would be fun.
All right. Name one book where you want to change the ending, and how would you do it?
Okay, so this movie changed the ending. The adaptation of the film changed the ending, but the book, I don't know. Well, I guess this requires me to spoil it. The Idea of You by Robin Lee. In the book, they do not end up together. So I would change it to be like the movie but I would make it even more of a closed circle where it's like we don't just see him show up 5 years later, but like we actually see them together and making it work and her no longer having to sacrifice. Like that's what I would want to see.
I love that movie. I had not read the book. I heard that it was an adaptation. I also heard how they changed the adaptation, which was like, but I still love the movie because I love Anne Hathaway.
Yes.
All right. And then name a book that you think is overrated or overtaught and why. And you can do dead
overtaught. The Great Gatsby, probably, because I remember I had to read that book and I don't remember anything about that book. And I also just feel like there's probably like an overemphasis on a certain type of classic novel in our like general public school curriculum.
You can say it here. We hold no cut cards on Black and Published.
Why didn't we read Toni Morrison? That's what I want to know. Okay. There we go.
Thank you.
Read more Toni, less F. Scott Fitzgerald. There we go.
That's a fair trade.
Octavia Butler. Let's read some Black sci-fi. Let's do that.
I support this. All right. Final question. When you are dead and gone and among the ancestors, after everyone sings like that at the funeral,
yes.
What would you like someone to write about the legacy of words and work that you left behind?
She inspired me. Not even just her writing, but just she in general. She was an inspiration.
Big thank you to Myah Ariel for being here today on Black and Published. You can follow Myah on the socials at Myah Meets Cute on Instagram. And Myah is spelled M-Y-A-H. And make sure you check out her novel, No Ordinary Love. It's out now from Berkeley. You can get a copy of No Ordinary Love from Mahogany Books and get 10% off your first purchase using code BLACKPUB at checkout. That's BLKPUB. That's our show for the week. If you like this episode and want more Black and Published, head to our Instagram page. It's at Black and Published, and that's BLK and Published. There, I've posted a bonus clip from my interview with Myah about what she's working on next. Make sure you check it out and let me know what you think in the comments. I'll holler at y'all next week when our guest will be Dolan Perkins Valdez, author of Happy Land.
What I was trying to capture with the contemporary storyline was how over the years the family relationships have broken down, and that has not been inextricable from the loss of the land, that it has been connected, and that when we lose these gathering places and when we lose the history of our families, we lose each other.
That's next week on Black and Published. I'll talk to you then. Peace.
What's going on, family? This is Derek Young
and Ramonda Young,
owners of both Mahogany Books and the Mahogany Books Podcast Network.
We really want to thank each and every one of you for listening to this episode. And if you enjoyed what you just heard, drop us a review and rate us on whatever platform you download podcasts on.
We truly appreciate each and every one of you for supporting us and making us your go-to for Black books. And we look forward to connecting with you all sometime in the future.
Thank you again, fam. And always remember, Black books matter.